Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Cal Sandu, your personal travel size lawyer here as always to break down complex legal issues into simple and easy to understand advice. Today, a super common issue and one we get a lot of questions about, which is bad neighbours. So if you're currently dealing with loud music at all hours of the night, horrible smells, or a neighbour's pet that just causes chaos, well, stick around because whether you're a landowner or in a leasehold flat, we are going to talk about your legal rights, what steps you can take, and how you can start enjoying the privacy of your home again. And all that in just under 7 minutes. So let's get into it. Now, before you go grabbing your phone to call the police, let's talk about what's legally considered a nuisance, because not all noises or smells or pet behavior is going to qualify as something you can take legal action against. I mean, we all live in communities or communal buildings, so a little bit of noise or pets wandering around is normal, right? But there is a line. Now, a nuisance is generally defined by law as something that interferes with your ability to enjoy and use your property. So if your neighbour is playing loud music every night until the early hours, or if there's a constant foul smell from their apartment, or the dog just barks non-stop, that could be considered a nuisance. Now, what's important here is that the disturbance has to be unreasonable. A dog barking once in a while, not really a nuisance, but a dog barking for hours on end every day, different story. Now, the same goes for odours. So if your neighbour's flat or their garbage smells bad once in a while, that's normal. But if the stench is overwhelming and persistent and it's affecting your ability to enjoy your home, it might qualify as a nuisance. So remember, the key words here are persistent and unreasonable. All right, now that you know what can be considered a nuisance by law, let's talk about what you can actually do about it. So, step one, talk to your neighbour. Look, I know this sounds obvious, and if you've already been and done this many times, then fair enough, but it is a step that a lot of people skip. Look, no one enjoys conflict, but if it means saving you time, money, and stress, it's worth doing. Sometimes your neighbour might not even realise that they are being so noisy or that their smell is reaching your property, so approach them calmly and politely. You'd be surprised how far a simple conversation can go. And here's an important tip: document those conversations. Write down the dates and the details of what was discussed. This can be really useful later on if the situation escalates, which is why it's important to speak to your neighbor so that you can gather evidence from your conversations. So if talking doesn't help, your first step will be to check your local ordinances. Now, every city or town council has ordinances or rules about noise and even regulations about odors and pets. So check your local noise ordinances. These usually specify times when loud noise isn't allowed, like after 10 p.m. on weekdays or after midnight on weekends. You can find these on your city council website or by calling your local authorities. You can check odor regulations. There might be local rules around trash disposal, composting, or anything that causes persistent bad smells. And finally, you can check local animal control laws. Most areas have rules about pet behavior. This includes laws about pets causing a disturbance like excessive barking or roaming free or damaging other people's properties. Some areas even have leash laws for dogs or rules about how many pets a person can have in their home. So go online or call up and check your local ordinances for your city or your location as they apply to you. Once you know what the rules are, you can bring this up with your neighbor. For example, hey, I checked the local rule that says no loud music after 10, or I read the regulations about pet control and your dog isn't allowed to do what it's doing. Now, listen closely, because if you are part of a leasehold flat in a communal building with other leaseholders, then you may also have additional protections, because when it comes to dealing with troublesome neighbors in a leasehold flat, your lease may contain specific clauses that you can rely on. Now, your leasehold agreement usually includes rules about what leaseholders, other leaseholders, can and cannot do in the property or the building itself. And there may be restrictions on behavior that cause nuisance or disturbance to other residents. So if this is you, then your first step will be to review not only the local ordinances, but your lease as well. Now, you should have a clause related to noise or other forms of nuisance in that lease. These clauses are often called quiet enjoyment clauses or nuisance clauses, and they're designed to protect leaseholders from disturbances caused by others in the building. This could include noise, odors, or disruptive behavior from neighbors. Look for language that prohibits excessive noise or behavior that disturbs other residents, causing a nuisance, annoyance, or inconvenience to neighbors, or breach of peaceful enjoyment. This is sometimes called the covenant of quiet enjoyment. Look for those in your lease. Many leases also have restrictions regarding pets, and there should be a clause on pets in your lease as well, because there is often a clause against keeping certain types of pets imposing conditions on pet ownership, like requiring pets to be quiet or well behaved. So if your lease does include these kinds of clauses, you can raise the issue with your landlord or with your managing agent by pointing out the breach. They will then take action against the neighbour on your behalf for breach of the lease. And I'll go over what to do if your management agent can't or are refusing to help you later on at step 4. That leads us to step 3, which is filing your complaint. So if your neighbour is still not cooperating, you can file a complaint with your local authorities. Now, this could be a noise complaint, an odour complaint, or even a report to animal control. Now, for noise complaints, you'll usually file with your local police department's non-emergency line. For odour complaints, contact your city's environmental health department or a similar agency. And for animal issues, you can report the problem yourself to local animal control departments. Now, important tip, before you file a complaint, keep a log of that issue. Write down the dates, times, and the nature of each disturbance. This log will strengthen your case and make it easier for the authorities to take action. So document everything. That is the information you'll need when filing your claim. Okay, so by now you should know the specific law or ordinances you need to identify as it relates to you, and where to find that law, as well as how to file an initial complaint. Now we can look at how best to take legal action and escalate if you're still not satisfied. So if you've tried everything and your troublesome neighbours still won't desist from disturbing you, it might be time to take legal action. Now, this could involve small claims court. In some cases, if the issue is affecting your quality of life and causing you harm, like you're losing sleep or dealing with property damage, you might be able to sue for damages in small claims court. Now, this won't solve the problem directly, but it could get you some financial compensation if you can show and prove tangible harm. But if you want the actual problem fixed, a better remedy would be our next option, the injunction. Now, an injunction is a legal order that requires your neighbour to stop the nuisance. Now, obtaining an injunction from the court is a bigger step and can be more complicated, so it may require you hiring an attorney. Now, if you go this route, be prepared for the process to take time and possibly cost money in legal fees. But as I said, this order will legally force your neighbour to desist from whatever nuisance they are causing you. Now, I quickly want to go back to if you're a leaseholder again, because if you are a shared leaseholder, if your complaints to the freeholder or managing agent haven't resolved the issue or they've ignored you, you can take your case to a first-tier property tribunal, which is just another fancy word for court. Now, if you believe that your landlord or your managing agent hasn't fulfilled their obligations to enforce the lease, hasn't responded to you, has ignored you, then the tribunal can step in and enforce those lease terms and order your landlord or managing agent to take action, including possibly imposing penalties on the neighbour in breach. Now, here is a really important tip for anyone thinking about taking legal action, which is get prepared. If you're taking legal action, be sure to gather as much evidence as possible, as I told you before. Record videos or audios of the noise. Document smells. Yes, there are ways to do that. Take photos of animals causing disturbances and get statements from other neighbours who are affected. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, log everything. And there you have it. That concludes the advice I can give you in this video. If by any chance you have liked or learned anything of value from this video, then maybe consider dropping me a like or subscribe to my channel to ensure you have qualified legal advice in your back pocket at all times. If you have stories of your own on the subject of troublesome neighbours and how you dealt with it, please do drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, while my content can and should be taken as reliable legal advice in general, it's not a substitute for specific legal advice as it relates to your particular situation. So consult with a lawyer for your specific needs. That said, see you in the next video.